Hey, welcome back to Makeaway Life Coaching. My name is Sarah Abbott and I'm the life coach. Gosh, I hope you're really enjoying this free life coaching. I have actual clients who pay and I don't know. I always think maybe they should just watch the videos and not have to pay me. Hi, clients. Anyway, okay, we're back. We're talking about boundaries. I will not repeat the coconut tree example for you because it was in the last video and the one before that. The visual of the coconut tree is on my website, makeawaylifecoaching.com. You can subscribe to the website and get all sorts of cool free things in email twice a month, not a lot of emails. And it's stuff that nobody else knows about. I don't put it on the blog. I don't put it on these videos. So go ahead and subscribe to the website if you would like some really cool free thing, tools, knowledge that will help you, I hope. Okay, so we're talking more about boundaries and self-abandoning codependency. So we know that a boundary is an invisible net. Let's just call it a net. Sometimes you think of it like a fence. And it keeps people at a safe distance from you, even like emotionally, mentally, sometimes physically. Okay, so you are thinking about having boundaries, and that's so great. Here's the thing. With codependency, also known as self-abandonment, part of the vicious cycle that the codependent, self-abandoning person gets into is expecting the other person to change to bring them happiness. If you really look back at your life, this almost never happens. And so it's what in, AA they call the definition of insanity, is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. So think right now of the person in your life, spouse, parent, kid, boss, friend, whoever, teacher, I don't know. Picture the person who you feel is constantly bulldozing your boundaries or testing your boundaries, because they cannot bulldoze you. They just can't if you don't let them. So they're testing your boundaries, they're testing your net, they're dropping coconuts on you all the time. Okay, picture that person. And now look back and ask yourself, how many times have you tried to get that person to stop? And how many times has that ever worked? I know with the people in my life, everyone, you have to have boundaries with everyone. It's your job. Every single person I've ever met in my entire life, you have to have boundaries with, because that's your job. And trying to get them to change doesn't work. If you think about it, it's hard enough to change your own self, let alone trying to get anyone else to change. It's just the definition of insanity. So what happens with the codependent cycle is like, I'm just going to keep using the spouse example. I think that's probably the one that's a little bit hardest to deal with. So we gave some examples in the past, but let's say your spouse is like an addict or an alcoholic, same thing, different substance. And then they have these like negative behaviors that are harmful to you and your family, okay? That's so painful. And we're actually going to get into those in the future, like how to have the life that you want, even if your spouse is dealing with addiction issues. But let's say they have these harmful behaviors, staying home at the bar too late and, missing out on time with the family, or absenteeism at work that makes you afraid, he's going to lose his job. All of these really common issues that the addict faces. Or just bottom line, overusing substances and you worry about their health. Okay, so let's say that you have all these things going on. This is something a lot of people are dealing with. And your solution to this is to constantly go to the spouse and be like, honey, please stop. Because you're absent from work all the time, you're going to lose your job. Please stop, please stop. Please stop, I'm worried about your health. Please stop. Please stop, it's embarrassing when you act this way. Please stop. Well, when you look back, have they stopped? Probably not, okay? What we know about addicts, but overall people in general, is that people kind of have to hit their own rock bottom before they really make life change. That's true with the addict, but it's also kind of true with everyone. That was what put me in therapy, is I hit the rock bottom of my own anger issues, and I was horrified by who I had become, and that made me want to change. It wasn't because anyone else asked me to change, okay? So we know that about how humans operate. And so you have to check yourself. Think about our coconut tree example. You live here. Let's say your spouse, in this metaphor, lives in your neighbor and the coconut trees dropping coconuts in a really harmful way on your sunflowers. If you're walking next door and knocking on the door, spouse, please change. And then he doesn't trim the tree. And then you go, spouse, please trim the coconut tree. Your coconuts are ruining my life. And he doesn't trim the tree. If you're constantly seeking your resolution by knocking on his door and trying to get him to change, you have to stop. Okay? That's codependency. And there's no freedom in it because it needs the other person to change for you to be happy. And true freedom is when you do not need that person to change to be happy in your life. And it's really hard, okay? If you want to read an amazing story about it, life-transforming story that actually made me kind of mad at Barack Obama, who I love. I was like, so angry when I was reading that book because, we love Michelle. Anyway, I digress. I recommend reading Michelle Obama's memoir, Becoming. It's so beautiful, but the thing about her book is she tells her truth. Which I don't even know how she can be so brave because she's one of the most, in the public's eye person. She receives criticism just for, when you're the first lady or retired first lady, people are always just, criticizing you like the public eye, right? And yet she wrote a book and she told her story without apology. It is powerful, although I warn you, as a wife, I felt so frustrated with Barack Obama, refusing to change his behaviors that were hurtful to Michelle. It's okay. I've made peace with it. But the beauty of the story is that Michelle goes to therapy and gets help and finally realizes she has to make the life that she wants in order to have the life that she wants and be happy. That's freedom. Michelle is free. So you can read that book if you want to read that book. I highly recommend it. I think almost every woman should read that book. It's really, if you're a wife, it's very powerful. Okay, but I digress. So, if you're constantly going to your spouse, knocking on the door, please change your behavior. And of course, we know that's not going to be what changes it, okay? So how do we have boundaries to keep our life healthy and safe without needing anything from our spouse? Well, this is the work. Okay, let's dive in. I'm going to tell my story, give you an example from my life. It's a very vanilla example, I will admit, okay? I'm not going deep with you here. But many, many years ago, I was a full-time teacher. You guys, teachers work so hard, it's crazy. And Nick and I were newly married, and oh my gosh, he's such an amazing man. But you know what I realized? He doesn't do chores. So we had a chore chart. I brought my cute little chore chart from college that worked with my female roommates. And I was like, okay, we both work full-time. So here's your jobs and here's my jobs. Voila, it's going to be so great. Okay, well then it was no, he just didn't do it. And I was like, I don't understand what's going on. Our chore chart's breaking down. And he was like, yeah, I just, I don't remember what the chore was. Cleaning the toilets or something. We both had gross chores, okay? And he was like, I don't want to do that. And I was like, well, I don't want to do it either. I don't want to do any of these stupid chores, but they have to get done. Blah, blah, on and on and on and on. Chore fighting, chore fighting, chore fighting. My resentment was building. And here's one thing about me. I hate being resentful. I hate it. I like to be at peace with people. So I'll take action to make that happen. So I was actually in therapy and it came up all the time. All the time. I was like, oh, actually at this point I had quit working full-time. I was only down to part-time, but now I had children to raise. So, that's a lot of work. The invisible work of the mother is crazy. That's for another episode. But I'm talking to my therapist. I'm like, I don't know why he won't do his chores. It's so frustrating. And she was like, okay, well, she'd been teaching me about boundaries. So she was like, how could you handle this with a healthy boundary? I was like, what do you mean? And she was like, Sarah, you keep walking from your yard into his yard, knocking on the door, asking him to change, but he's not changing. And your resentment and anger is building, which is exactly, by the way, side note, that's what happens when you're not having healthy boundaries, is you get angrier and angrier with the person. Resentment builds, okay? So you can gauge how healthy your boundaries are. If you're feeling really angry with the person, it could be because you're not keeping your boundaries strong enough. So I was like, well, I know it's annoying, but I don't know how else to change. she was like, well, have you ever thought about hiring a housekeeper? And I was like, of course I thought about hiring a housekeeper. More like dreamed about it. And she was like, well, that's something you could do. And then these housekeepers who you will pay will do basically his chores. And then you can move on with your life. You can do your jobs. And he's free because he's not doing it anyway. And you pay for that privilege, but at least it's like done. And I was like, oh, but Nick doesn't want me to have, like, he doesn't want to pay for housekeepers. He's very frugal. She was like, right, but he also doesn't want to do the chores. So it seems like he's giving you the power to do the chores. You need to decide a healthy boundary way to get them done. And I was like, hallelujah. I just knew this was so right. Okay. So our budget was tight. I am not going to lie. But like, should I resent my husband for the next 20 years? Or self-abandon, do all the chores, work 20 hours a week, raise my children, do all the kid stuff, the schlepping, the cooking, the cleaning. Should I do all of that with like just a glacier of resentment on my back? Why would I do that? So I reached out, I hired some housekeepers, and I didn't even tell Nick, which I'm a blabbermouth. So like, it took some restraint, but I was like, I'm going to enjoy this. So I hired the housekeepers, and they came and they went when he's at work. He had no idea. Twice a month, okay? It's not like the end of the world. I found the money. We ate out a little bit less, which meant more work for me. Fine, whatever, cooking. I like to cook. It's fine. And then, like, I don't know, a couple months in, Nick was like, seems like there's this outflow of money. He hates it when I do his voice. Sorry, Nick. There's outflow of money. And I was like, yeah, that's for Elizabeth and Nora. And he was like, who are Elizabeth and Nora? I was like, our housekeepers. He was like, what do you mean housekeepers? I was like, I hired housekeepers. And he was like, what? We don't have the money for housekeepers. I'm like, apparently we do. So he was like, well, we didn't talk about this. And I was like, honey. And then I'm like totally using my therapy stuff. I was like, you were choosing not to do chores, which is your free will and free choice that God gave you. I was doing all of it, and gosh, I was just so resentful and angry with you. So I talked about it with my therapist, and I decided to have a healthy boundary. You've given me control of all the chores, so I decided to outsource some of them, like the ones you won't do. Plus a few extra, if we're being honest. He was like, well, I just wish you would have talked to me. And I was like, I know, and I wish you just would have done your chores, but it's fine. This is totally working. So now it's like, I don't know, 15 years later, we still have these wonderful women helping us. Still twice a month. They're amazing. Our whole house works fine. I have zero resentments for my husband. That is the freedom that comes with a healthy boundary. Now, if you're watching this and you're like, well, I can never afford a housekeeper, you're thinking too small, okay? Maybe you can't afford a housekeeper, but we're not even talking about your chores. What's your issue that you need to develop healthy boundaries? That is the thinking, okay? Don't think about housekeepers, but maybe it's with an addict spouse or a boss who has no respect for your time and your home life, emailing you at 11 p.m. and all these other things, okay? Use the housekeeping example to realize you are powerful. You are in charge of having boundaries, whatever they are, that are going to keep other people in where they belong. Protect your life, your space, your time, your energy, your emotions, and nobody's allowed to like infringe on those. Okay, that's freedom. So it doesn't have to even require money. The best boundaries would be free. Mine did require money, but I found the money, so it was fine. I just rearranged our life. And all right, I know I got off easy. My husband is a wonderful man. Oh, he's 10 times better than I could have dreamed a husband could be. So thank you, Nick, for being so wonderful and for supporting me with Elizabeth and Nora. It's wonderful. But the bottom line is, I know I got off easy. Some of you are dealing with a lot more heartbreaking stuff with your spouse and, parents and people with mental illness and addiction issues and narcissism and all of these things. But the example stands. It's just an example. A healthy boundary is something that protects you, that you decide you will hold, and other people have to honor because that's how you're designing it. And it allows you to be less angry and less resentful because you're taking care of yourself. Okay, I have another example. Let's say you are newly divorced or divorced for a long time. Okay, let's say you're divorced and your ex-husband is, selfish. And he's in this pattern of kind of getting caught late at work and it's his night to pick up the kids and take them to dinner and whatever. And on a regular basis, he's like texting you, "Oh, I'm stuck at work. Can you bring the kids to my work?" And for some reason, codependency, self-abandonment, you keep doing it. And you just hate doing it because you're like, I'm not married to this dude anymore. I want my kids to see him. That's probably why you're doing it, is because you want your kids to see him. And you're worried that if you don't enable him or do the thing he's asking that you don't want to do, if you don't enable him, maybe he won't pick up the kids that night. Well, that is codependency. You are trying to control his actions by doing the thing that he asked you to do. And it doesn't work, okay? Look back at your marriage to this dude. Did your actions ever cause him to behave better? Probably not. That's not usually how it works. Okay. So what's a healthy boundary to receiving this text? Your plan, if your night off, okay, you were going to cook a healthy meal for yourself because you're trying to take care of your health. You were going to do the dishes because as a single mom, a lot more work around the house than you used to have. And you were going to have a kid-free night where you gave yourself a manicure and relaxed. And you were looking forward to it all day long. So you have to ask yourself, I just received this text from my ex-husband. I know that I want to eat healthy, do the dishes, and give myself a manicure and just relax. But I also am thinking about self-abandoning and driving across town in traffic to drop the kids at his work because he's busy. So you have to ask, do I want to make him happy, do the thing he needs, and self-abandon? Or do I want to have a boundary and decide to stick to my plan and have my own life? Well, my hope would be that you would keep your boundary. Here's what that would look like. You text back, "No." That's all you have to say, okay? You are a free woman. No means no. One-word responses are fine. Some of us, myself included, feel like we have to explain ourselves. You do not have to explain yourself. So your text could say no. That's it. You don't owe him anything else. You don't owe anyone anything else. Or if you want to explain, just say, do whatever you want to do. Be like, "No, I can't today." Or, "No, I choose not to." Or, "No, I'm going to give myself a manicure instead." Okay, what does that mean? When you have a boundary, you have to accept the consequences, okay? Boundaries are not free. There's consequences. Every choice in life has a consequence. What might he do? He might shoot you off an angry text. Like, "I can't believe you're so selfish." And you can just delete it, okay? You can handle his disappointment and frustration. He's a big boy. Or maybe he's like, "Fine, I'm not picking up the kids then." Okay, that's super sad. You can have feelings of sadness that your husband is choosing to let down your kids. That's terrible, okay? But that's between him and the kids. This is his relationship with his kids. We always, as mothers, want to protect our kids. So we try to help them have all healthy relationships. But you have no power over your husband's relationship with your kids. If he blows it, he blows it. What can you do? You can tolerate your own feelings of sadness. Part of having a boundary is being able to tolerate what feelings come up for yourself. So you tolerate your own feelings, you go to your children and you soothe them and you tell them the truth. "I am sorry that your dad is hung up at work and he chose not to see you tonight. I'm really sorry. I love you. Do you guys want to do a manicure with me tonight?" Okay. Probably in the back of your mind, you really wanted to do the manicure alone. I get it. But accept your situation, accept the feelings that everybody has, and just realize you honored yourself. Okay? You didn't self-abandon, and that is freedom. You don't have to drive across town in traffic angrily, getting your blood pressure up, having your resentment build, drive back and get a burrito on the way home because now you don't have time for a healthy meal. Now you ate unhealthy and you abandoned your desire to be healthy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay? You chose to take care of yourself, your needs, and that is great. You would never, decide not to spend the night with your kids because you were hung up late at work, and that's the best you can do. You can't control what he does. So this is boundaries. And I just want to tell you, I really want to encourage you to start playing with this in your life. It takes practice. I have been really doing it for 10 years now, and I still totally blow it and self-abandon, but I know I did because I notice I get really angry with people, and anger is a flag to yourself that you have let someone blow through your boundaries. You've allowed that. It's not their fault. You allowed it. And so when I'm angry with someone, I think, wait a minute. What did I allow? Oh, I see. I left there's a hole in my net over here, and that person found it, and I let them through my boundary. I need to repair the hole in the net so that they are over there, and then I won't be angry with them. Okay, so this is the work. The alternative is to spend your life feeling like a doormat. I don't want that for you. Women do that a lot, and it's no way to live, and there's no freedom in it, okay? God gave you this life so that you will have free will and free choice. And you have to use it. You have to exercise that. And if you constantly feel trodden upon like a doormat, then you need to do the work to understand boundaries, develop boundaries. You might need to get yourself a life coach or a therapist, or maybe these videos are enough. There's a great book by Cloud and Townsend called Boundaries. Changes That Heal is another one. We can get into those later. There's just a lot you can do to develop boundaries, and I really hope that you do. Join us next week because we're going to talk about how to hold your boundaries. It's the last of the boundaries episodes, and it's just really important to know you put up the net, but you also have to maintain the net. Okay, that's called holding your boundaries, and we're going to get into that next week. I hope to see you then. Bye-bye.